Hey, what's going on, Who Dat Nation? It is yours truly, TJ Jones, the host of the State of the Saints podcast. On this edition, we're going to be giving our final thoughts on the Saints' Week 3 loss versus the Seattle Seahawks. What have we learned, and what can the Black and Gold do to try to improve their chances of winning football games in 2025? The State of the Saints podcast starts right now.
Thank you for listening to my daddy's podcast. Please subscribe to our channel.
All I gotta say is, who that?
What's going on, Who Dat Nation? It is yours truly, TJ Jones. And yes, I am the host of the State of the Saints podcast. And thank you so much for checking out the State of the Saints podcast, where we talk New Orleans Saints. I really do appreciate your time. On this edition, we're going to be giving our final thoughts on the New Orleans Saints' embarrassing 44-13 loss to the Seattle Seahawks. And this game has been dissected by Saints fans all across the country, all around the world. I think we're all in agreement when it comes to this game. It was an absolute embarrassment, and it really took the Saints back about 30 years, to be honest with you. It's been a while since I've seen such an embarrassing loss by the New Orleans Saints where they just were not prepared. I mean, it just seemed like they were just kind of sleepwalking through this football game. Credit to them, I will say, in the second half, they were able to get on track, but the damage pretty much was done in the first half. It was just a lot of uncharacteristic things on sides of the football that I think a lot of Saints fans, probably in your lifetime, you weren't accustomed to seeing, especially when it comes to special teams. The Saints have had one of the best special teams in all of football, like block punts and return for touchdowns on special teams plays just don't happen very often in New Orleans, because that was one of those position groups that always seemed to have it together. But they were one of the main reasons why the New Orleans Saints fell behind in that game. And as we know, the offense of the New Orleans Saints isn't good enough to be able to come back from that type of deficit. They just don't have the horses in the barn. I just wish that I can just tell you on this day, on this Monday afternoon, that I can see things getting better, but I just can't. Not until I actually see things start to improve. And when you start to see the same things happen every single week when it comes to the undisciplined football, right now I believe the New Orleans Saints have a total of 31 penalties in 3 games. I think they're like tied with the Tennessee Titans as of right now. I mean, it is bad stuff. And when you're not a good football team and you're very limited when it comes to the talent department, you can't afford to beat yourself. You can't afford to, get yourself, taken out of the game. It's hard enough to be able to go up against teams that have really good competition, really good talented players on their football team. And also on top of that, you're basically causing yourself a lot of hardship. I made a joke at the beginning of the season. I just think that the New Orleans Saints need to start every down when they get the ball offensively, 1st and 20, to go ahead and get that penalty out of the way. It's pretty bad right now. And, I just look at a lot of things that you can focus on when teams are undisciplined, and you got to take a look at the head coach. I look at Kellen Moore when it comes to this season, as a guy that was thrust into a situation that was not ideal. We know that the New Orleans Saints had salary cap issues. They had talent issues. You had aging players on the roster. And you also really didn't have a quarterback that you can honestly count on. And Kellen Moore was put into this position. So I wasn't judging him based on the talent level. I believe that it's going to take you some years to be able to transform this team into a team that is more like you would like the team to be. It's going to take a few drafts and it's going to take a few off seasons in order for you to be back being a competitive football team. So I'm okay with that. But what I'm not okay with is the New Orleans Saints being an undisciplined football team and not being prepared to go up against the Seattle Seahawks, which clearly the New Orleans Saints were not. It was very alarming. And I also feel for the first time watching the football game that Kellen Moore looked like he was in over his head. And it gave me a little bit of some Dennis Allen vibes. Now, I'm not willing to say that Kellen Moore is an offensive version of Dennis Allen, but in this game, you're kind of hard pressed not to kind of believe that a little bit. Now, he's very early in his head coaching career, so I'm not going to jump to that conclusion. But look, you can't be passive in this game. Like, it's rather you're going to be an aggressive head coach or you're going to be that guy that, count on analytics or decide that you just want to take the points. It was like Kellen Moore was having a battle within himself. Like, who am I going to be? Am I going to be this aggressive coach or am I going to be the guy that takes the points? And you got to figure out what side of the fence that you're going to be on, because every decision that you're making can decide your team's fate. And I just want to see this guy be a little bit more aggressive, or, if you're going to be that numbers guy and count on analytics, I'm okay with that too. I know some people look at Kellen Moore and, they want him to be fire and fury, be a little bit of a tyrant, maybe fuss and yell and scream in somebody's face. But if that's not who you are, that's just not who you are. I don't care about him screaming in anybody's face or anything like that. But what I do want is him to let his players know that they have to be held accountable for some of these situations. And, these holding penalties that happen week after week, you have to wonder to yourself, like, are you coaching these things? And I understand that the New Orleans Saints have had some referees come to practice to be able to kind of police the penalties, so to speak. But you have to make sure that you're enforcing this. And honestly, you got to make sure that you make a statement. I can remember when things weren't going right offensively or defensively, it doesn't matter who the player was or how impactful they were. If they wasn't doing their job, we'll see Sean Payton bench that guy, right? I mean, it just wasn't your day. We'll come back next week and we'll see a much better showing of you. There's been times where, for example, Mark Ingram would fumble the football and Sean Payton would bench him. Then the next week, what would Mark Ingram do? He'll turn into angry Mark Ingram, probably go over 100 yards, and you'll probably see a much better version of himself. Why? Because Sean Payton challenged him as a player to get better. You have to be able to challenge your players in order for them to get better. If you're not, then you're doing yourself a disservice to your players. And honestly, you are causing your players to maybe lose a little bit of respect for you if they have any at all to begin with. So I just hope that Kellen Moore is able to right this ship. Looking overall at the offense of the New Orleans Saints, let's just call a spade, folks. They were behind the 8 ball. When you're going up against a front four that can get pressure on your quarterback without blitzing, it was a tough day at the office. When you look across the board, Torres Ellis-Simpkins in his first start, he's playing left guard. You got Asim Richards out there. He's backing up. He's a backup right tackle. Talese Fuaga couldn't play in the game. And, you got Cesar Ruiz out there. To me, in my humble opinion, dude is just not good enough to be a starting right guard in the NFL right now. I mean, just go back and look at the tape. I mean, the fact that you're looking at Cesar Ruiz bumping into Juwan Johnson, getting pushed back into the pocket, don't know who to block. And this is a guy who has been in the league for 5 seasons. He has been in the NFL since 2020. And you're basically looking at a guy as if he's Torricelli Simpkins or he's a Seam Richards. Like this is an embarrassment, man. And you also look at the wide receivers. The wide receivers of the New Orleans Saints, as talented as they are, as down the field threats, there's nobody that's getting the yards after the catch. There's nobody that's making anybody miss. There's none of that going on. Teams are playing shell coverage. They're playing cover two, making sure nothing goes over the top of their heads. And they feel like that's enough to be able to counteract anything that the Saints can do that is explosive. A lot of dinking and dunking, a lot of, 2-yard gains, 3-yard gains, because you don't have any guys on the team that can be able to, make somebody miss or break a tackle. And the Saints have no one to blame but themselves. And, some people were talking about Mickey Loomis and saying that Mickey Loomis isn't running the football. He isn't throwing the football. He isn't kicking the football, et cetera. But this is a guy that has constructed this football team the way that it is right now because of the ineptitude of his decisions over the last couple of years. The Saints are in cap purgatory and have been for the last 4 to 5 years, probably even longer. They were kicking the can down the road, and they could have addressed these issues when you knew that Drew Brees was in the twilight of his career. When I'm pretty sure Sean Payton probably had conversations behind the scenes about possibly leaving the team. That should have been your wake-up call to try to turn this thing around and try to get yourself into a better cap situation. Maybe doing what you're actually trying to do right now, which is, draft a bunch of young players and allow the young players to go out there and compete to see what you actually have. Mickey Loomis has turned the New Orleans Saints into an absolute joke. I stand by that. Anybody that's trying to defend Mickey Loomis, your last name must be Loomis, because there is no way that anybody in their right mind can honestly say that Mickey Loomis is a good GM. He is not. And over the last couple of years, we have finally seen what a lot of us probably already knew in the first place, which is that he was living off the success of Sean Payton and Drew Brees. All the mistakes that he made, all the mishaps that he made as a general manager were absolved because you had a really good, great Hall of Fame quarterback that can make any wide receiver look pretty credible. And you had a coach who was a tyrant that demanded excellence no matter how great a player was or how mediocre a player was. Right now, the New Orleans Saints don't have that. And I'm very concerned at some of the decisions. Back again, I'm talking about Kellen Moore. Once again, it's very early in his coaching life, but I'm wondering, did he sign or hire Kellen Moore because of his personality? Because for the last 2 hires that Mickey Loomis had, Dennis Allen and Kellen Moore, they basically kind of been the same type of guy, passive aggressive, not going to rattle the cage, not going to rock the boat, not really aggressive, rah-rah guys. It's like they just kind of even kill. And maybe he feels like, man, I can work with guys like that. Maybe it's the fact that Sean Payton was such a tyrant. He demanded certain things, and maybe Mickey Loomis didn't want to deal with that anymore. But here's the reality. You can not want to deal with that anymore, but you also have to understand that the way that Sean Payton operates gave your organization the greatest success it has ever had in its franchise's history. And sometimes, you might not want to deal with a person like that, but their demand of excellence, their willingness to do everything that it takes to win football games and be the absolute best, that is what you need right now. Now, I'm not saying that's not what Kellen Moore is trying to do. I'm pretty sure when he signed on the dotted line, he signed up to try to be the absolute best coach he can be. But I'm just wondering, why are we trying to get the same type of coaches with the same type of, mind frame? Because I'm looking at Kellen Moore, and I'm very, very concerned, especially when it comes to some of the decisions or lack thereof, or him seem like there are 2 games going on. There's the game on the field, and there's the game in his mind that he's playing with himself. You got to be sure about the decisions that you make. You can't flinch, because if you do, I feel like the game is already lost. And I don't want to think that Kellen Moore is not not the answer to the Saints' problems. I think that he's a smart guy. I think that he's a good coach. The thing about it is, I just want him to be a little bit more confident in himself. And I think if he becomes more confident in himself, I think that it'll start to radiate off of him to this team. This team is trying to figure it out. You got a lot of players on this football team that have not won anything. And, you got to be real, real careful that the mind frame of these football players don't go down a dark path where guys feel like, man, we're never going to win anything. And, this is an uphill battle that we're not going to win. I seen a picture of, Spencer Rattler on the sidelines, which is the thumbnail for today's episode. I mean, this guy is basically, looks dejected. And this is a guy who, you can say whatever you want about Spencer Rattler, but at the end of the day, he's playing some solid football, solid enough for the New Orleans Saints to win. Is he out here, putting the team on his back? Absolutely not. But that's not what you have in the quarterback in Spencer Rattler. It's just not. You need pieces around him. And, this team is too limited, in my opinion, for Spencer Rattler to be able to operate effectively. And I feel like it's totally unfair because people are going to walk away feeling like Spencer Rattler cannot do anything right. And, if he probably go to better circumstances, you'll probably see a much better version of Spencer Rattler. If you had a team that had offensive line that can run the football, some playmakers on the outside that can, you don't need the perfect pass right in their hands in order for them to catch it. They're going to go out there and make a play. So it's unfortunate. And, if it continues to go the way that it is, you're going to have to find out eventually what Tyler Shuck can do. I don't feel like it's an indictment on Spencer Rattler or the way that he's playing the quarterback position. It's just the fact that the New Orleans Saints aren't winning anything, and what they're doing isn't translating to wins. So you got to figure out what you're going to do when it comes to the NFL draft in 2026. And yes, I am talking about the draft in 2026 because why shouldn't we? Why shouldn't we, Who Dat Nation? I mean, the New Orleans Saints don't look like a team that's going to make the playoffs. They don't look like a team that's going to be in contention for the division. Matter of fact, as of right now, as I speak, they are last in the division, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. So, yes, I am talking about the 2026 draft, and you need to figure out who is going to be the playmakers on your team, who is going to be the cornerstone guys. And if, honestly, things start to continue once again, you may need to think about who is going to be on that trade block, so you can be able to generate some level of draft capital. Also looking at this game, I got to talk a little bit about Alvin Kamara. And the reason I'm talking about Alvin is not because of anything that Alvin did. I think that Alvin in a game versus Seattle, I mean, this man was out there giving it his all. I mean, the offensive line just did not do him any favors. Every time they snapped the ball, as soon as they snap it, you had Seattle Seahawks defenders in the backfield. And if Alvin Kamara didn't drag a guy 3 or 4 yards up the field, then he probably wouldn't even got a gain on a play. It was embarrassing. And, I know some people, feel like this is controversial what I'm saying. And I feel like I need to clarify what the statement that I made on social media. Now, if you follow me on X, which is TJAY Jones 8, I wrote a tweet about Alvin Kamara and how I feel like Alvin Kamara is being wasted by the New Orleans Saints. This is towards the end of Alvin's career. And I think over the last 2 to 3 years, a lot of people have forgotten about how talented and how good Alvin Kamara is as a running back. Some people are talking about he lost a step. Some people feel like, he's not the running back that he once was. I think that is an absolute shame. And I said that I feel like the New Orleans Saints may need to consider trading him. And I know how people, feel. They're saying that Alvin doesn't want to go anywhere. And I get all that. I'm not saying that they need to force a trade. I'm looking at it from a legacy perspective. I don't want to see Alvin Kamara not be able to get his flowers and be able to be considered as one of the best running backs in the league. We've seen the same thing with Derrick Henry with the Tennessee Titans, right? Everybody thought he was going to slow down. He goes to Baltimore and he runs for nearly 2,000 yards, if not 2,000 yards. You look at Christian McCaffrey when he was with the Carolina Panthers. Everybody thought that he was washed. Oh, he goes and he gets traded to the 49ers, and he wins Offensive Player of the Year a couple of years ago. Alvin Kamara still has that type of talent. And I don't want to see Alvin Kamara get lost in this shuffle and basically just get ran into the ground because the New Orleans Saints aren't doing right by this guy. And yes, I understand that Alvin has stated that he doesn't want to go anywhere. But from a personal perspective, I'm looking at it like I want to see this guy like thrive and people appreciate what this dude can actually do and be able to show and display his skills every single week. I don't want to see Alvin get beat down to the ground. I just don't want to see that. And I just think that anybody that just around here don't want to see him, go anywhere or even thinking like that, I feel like it's just selfish. And like I said, I just want to see this guy be able to thrive and be able to do all the things that we know that Alvin can do. And if the Saints can't find a way to fix this offensive line, why waste this man's prime years like trying to have him running into a brick wall every single week? Like it just doesn't make sense. Alvin is just too good and too talented for him to have to deal with those type of situations. That was just my opinion. It wasn't like I was saying, oh, man, they need to force Alvin up out of the door. No, I'm just looking at it from a human perspective where I know that a guy is talented and I want to see him be able to thrive and be able to do the things that I know Alvin Kamara can do. Because Alvin was playing on a team that had a sensible or really good offensive line. There's no way in the world I would think that Alvin Kamara would not be among the top running backs in the entire NFL. And it's sad that the New Orleans Saints are really stopping him from being the absolute best and still being one of the best running backs in all of football. So that's why I stand at. I don't apologize for what I said. I don't regret what I said. I really stand by what I feel. And I want to see this guy like that. Some people just want to see him in a uniform or don't want to accept the fact that their favorite team is not very good. And, like I said, I mean, sometimes, you want to see players go out there and just, finish their career on a high note, especially if your team is not giving them everything that they need to display their skills and what they can actually bring to the table. But that's what I got from the game. Defensively, I mean, the secondary, you need a lot of help there. I don't think that the New Orleans Saints have a number one corner. I don't think that Kool-Aid McKinstry is a number one corner. I don't think that Isaac Adams needs to be on the field. I think it's about time that you see what Quincy Riley have. If you have any bright spots in the game, it involved Quincy Riley actually forcing a fumble. So you're already, pretty much, lost in space right now. So you might as well just try to see what some of these young guys have. Like give them a little bit of an uptick on their reps in games to see if you actually have somebody that can be a starter in the league for the next couple of years, instead of just messing around with a bunch of guys that you just got off the scrap heap and they got cheap contracts, and that's where we're at right now. So Mickey Loomis has not done the Saints any favors over the last couple of years, and that's the reason why when you look around this football team, you got a bunch of guys out there, on some American Idol type stuff where, they just happy to get the golden ticket to Hollywood, and they're just trying to go out there to sing the best notes that they can. They're trying to put together the best tape that they can, but they're limited, and that's just the reality. And until the New Orleans Saints figure this thing out, and by figure it out, I mean let go of Mickey Loomis, like allow him to go upstairs and bring somebody in with some fresh ideas and some fresh views to be able to fix this football team, then I think it's going to be the same old song and dance over and over again. And I'm telling you, Saints fans are starting to check out because they feel like it's a insurmountable climb, dealing with Mickey Loomis in the front office, making these terrible decisions. And, it's not translating to wins. And he's like a guy who is jumping out of a plane without a parachute right now because you don't have Sean Payton and Drew Brees around anymore to try to, be that parachute so you can land safely to the ground. I mean, right now, this guy is hitting the ground at about 200 miles per hour, and it's about to be really, really ugly. So I just hope that the New Orleans Saints front office, Gail Benson, Dennis Lauscher, be willing to have these type of conversations, because I'm telling you right now, Mickey Loomis is going to drive this team into the ground. I don't see that. I don't see it improving as long as this guy's the general manager. And it's sad. It's sad, man. Some of you don't even or have not even seen how bad this football team could be. Like growing up as a kid, I'm 39. Growing up as a kid, I mean, I watched some bad Saints football. Some of y'all and y'all lost in the days right now because y'all never seen it this bad. But I'm telling you, it can get bad, man. And I don't want to see it ever happen the way that it did back in my day. And some of y'all probably go back even further than me. So y'all got some horror stories as well. Nobody wants to see that. But let me go ahead and read some of these comments here. Ronald says, yeah, eventually they will have to play the second round draft pick. It's too late to cry to the front office to fix the problems. Play your hand, bro. Nah, I mean, it's too late, man. Nothing the Saints can do is going to change the state of this team right now. They're constructed the way that they're constructed. Part of me feel like they did this a little bit purposely. They probably felt like it was going to be a down year. If that wasn't the case, I feel like maybe you would have went for a veteran quarterback. Even to the Saints' decisions that they're making, like, signing guys like Jalen Polk to future contracts and then bringing in guys like Devon Bailey. And, they're trying to find younger players on cheap deals. And they're trying to put together and construct a football team based on that. So I think they pretty much already made up in their mind that it was going to be a down year. Like, you knew that you were probably going to have some growing pains no matter what quarterback you start, whether it was Rattler, Shuck, or Haener. Like, you know that you weren't going to get top-notch quarterback play. Most teams, if they feel like they have a chance, they'll probably go out there and get a veteran quarterback, while these young quarterbacks be able to figure it out. But the Saints decided to let this thing ride with a bunch of young, inexperienced quarterbacks in a quarterback room that consists of guys who have never won a NFL game at all. You don't do that type of stuff unless you got a plan. So maybe that's just what it is. Maybe, I look around and I look at some of the things that the New Orleans Saints have done. To me, it's like they were just trying to keep the fan base engaged. It kind of dates back to the decision to start Spencer Rattler in the first place last season. They started Spencer Rattler, in my opinion, because they understood that the the Saints fans were checking out. And they knew, based on the pulse of social media and maybe at the games, they know that Saints fans wanted to see Spencer Rattler play. And they realized that in order to keep these fans engaged, let's just give them Spencer Rattler. When the Saints first started the season, what did they do? They started to show like different new, fresh ideas to get Saints fans excited, like the white helmets, which, they look good. I mean, that's probably the best thing that they did on yesterday was show up in those white helmets and those color rush jerseys. Look really good. Painting the end zone gold, bringing back gold jerseys. Like, they were trying to do all these different things to try to get the Saints fans engaged, because maybe they realized that maybe this isn't going to be a good season, and they're trying to keep the Saints fans, excited about something. But right now, it's going to take more than gold jerseys and white helmets to be able to fix this situation. Because once again, Saints fans aren't going to deal with this. So they're going to have to figure this thing out. So everything about this football team as of right now just seems like they know that this wasn't going to be a good season. And maybe they're okay with that because they feel like maybe 2026, we can go back to the drawing board. Our salary cap issue will be better. We'll probably be picking in the top 5, top 3. Maybe you can find a quarterback of the future or a player that can be impactful right away. And, maybe you can bring some free agents up in here, that you can go out here and wheel and deal and make your situation better. So maybe that's what they're looking at. So right now they're just trying to weather the storm and maybe like utilize some of these young players to see, are we going to keep this guy for the next couple of years, or are we going to allow them to test free agency or try to trade them away? So if that's the case, then I have no problem with that. But the more I look at this team, the more I feel like that may have been the plan the entire time. Like I told you, bro, it's part of the process. Moore has to figure it out. like right now, to show some patience mixed with firm coaching from here on out. Yeah, I think I'm okay with the time, right? I understand it's a process, but what should not be a process is the constant penalties and the undisciplined play. Like I can't justify that. I can justify losing football games because you don't have as much talent as some of the teams that you face. But what I can't accept is you shooting yourself in the foot and constantly making mistakes and playing undisciplined football. Like I can't justify that. I will not justify that. So that's my biggest issue. Like I don't get upset about the roster. I don't get upset about, like what the team looks like. Like I already know this is the rebuilding stages of the New Orleans Saints. But when you look like you're unprepared and when you are playing undisciplined football and you have 31 penalties in 3 weeks, like that's very telling, not just on the team, but the coaches. Because you got to ask yourself why they keep on doing the same things over and over again. Everybody talking about drafting to rebuild and stuff, just stop. This team is terrible at drafting. We need the players. We have to be given a chance with better coaching. Look, yes, they have had some bad drafts, and that's something that they're going to have to stop doing. Like they're going to have to make sure that they're drafting players that can make an impact. Now, their mind frame going into last year's or this year's draft was getting guys that played a lot of football. Like if you look around, every draft pick that they had was a guy that played a lot of football in college, right? Tyler Shuck played a lot of football in college. Jonas Sinker, he played a lot of football in college. Quincy Riley, a lot of football. Danny Stutzman, a lot of football. And, that seemed like that's what they're trying to do. I mean, you can play a lot of football, but that doesn't mean that you're going to be an impactful player in the National Football League. Yeah, you had a lot of reps in college, but who's to say that's going to translate to the NFL? So I just think that the New Orleans Saints need to change, the way that they draft. Sometimes I just think that they try to be the smartest organization in the room. Oh, we're going to go after this guy at this lowly school because nobody really checking for him, and we want to show you how smart we are. Like, you got to get away from that. Like, if you have a guy who is coming out of the University of Georgia and he can make an impact and he had double-digit sacks in the SEC or LSU, like, like Will Whit Weeks or whatever like that. Like, if you can try to get after somebody like that, like somebody that's played at a high level, that's all over the field, that could be an impactful player, like, why not? Instead of trying to go after a guy from North Dakota State that, he played all 4 years of college and he was a team captain and, he would dedicate his Tuesday afternoons to giving, dedicating his time to a soup kitchen. Like that's great stuff. But that doesn't mean that the guy's about to go out here and be an absolute beast. So I just think that maybe you just need to pay attention to that stuff. I'm very concerned when I hear Mickey Loomis talking about, I feel like some players may not be good enough for us, because you may not want to deal with the situation. Like you look at a player like Jalen Carter. Yes, he can be a tad bit of a headache, but he's an impactful player. But you trust the infrastructure that you put around him. Put an infrastructure around him that can keep him challenged so he can go out there and continue to play and continue to be dialed in and be the best at his position. But it just seems like the New Orleans Saints, they become afraid of certain players. You got a bunch of guys on the team. They got talent, but you lack players on the team that have that dog in them. You got some guys that have some dog in them, guys that think that they have dog in them, but you're not seeing it enough. Like people talk about C.J. Gardner-Johnson, but since C.J. Gardner-Johnson left, in my opinion, I feel like the secondary has lost that juice. People may not like C.J. Gardner-Johnson, some of the Saints fans now, but this man was out there making impact. He was up there wrestling and getting in guys' heads and affecting these guys' psyche and making plays. And it was a synergy that was going on. Like, you got to be able to find players like that can bring the juice, that can bring that type of impact to your football team if you're trying to win something. You need those players on your team. You need guys in the locker room like Cam Jordan and Demario Davis too, guys that lead by example and also is able to stand up in the front of the room and address the team. You need those guys. But you also need some Goonies on your team too, man. You need some guys that's going to go out there and stand on business, man. That's what you need on your football team. You can't just have a bunch of, Boy Scouts on your football team and just, okay, man, I know that I can turn my phone off at 2 a.m. because ain't nothing going to happen. Well, nothing ain't going to happen at 2 a.m., but nothing ain't going to happen also on a football field on Sundays. So they're going to have to figure this thing out. I don't know how you can do that, especially when you have a bunch of like-minded people in the room. Everybody love each other, buddy, sweater on Christmas type mentality, who the Secret Santa is this year, like all that kind of stuff, man. Like it's hard to have those type of conversations. And, you also have a team that lives in an echo chamber. And in my opinion, like they try to, keep out the, certain people that they don't want in there because I guess they, want to make sure that things can stay, the way that they want them to stay. But right now, man, this team is lost. They're lost and they're going to have to find their way, man. And I just can't justify that. Like, it's just funny to me how you have some of these Saints fans out here trying to justify the Saints' bad decisions and want to question you and saying, oh, you're not a real fan because you don't stand by every decision that the New Orleans Saints make. I would challenge those fans that think that way. What decision did the New Orleans Saints make over the last 3 to 4 years? Can you really just say, oh, man, that's the decision that right there that you should believe in a team based on said decision? Like, what decision has been made? Like, everybody that questions this team is justifiably, justified in their feelings and their views of this football team. And I just think that, man, blind loyalty is dumb. It is. It's dumb. Like if you are sitting in the middle of a house fire, right? You just stand there saying, oh, man, I'm going to just sit here because I called 911 and the fire department is going to show up any minute now, but I'm just going to sit right here until they put the fire out. Like, that would be insane. That would be insane. Like, you have to react to it, even though, the fire department is going to be there any minute and hopefully they can catch the fire before it gets out of hand. You still got to leave the house in order for them, for you not to hurt yourself, right? To not suffer 3rd-degree burns or dare I say death. So it's not about just having this loyalty. Like, oh, man, I've been a Saints fan since 1975 and, man, I done seen the worst and y'all just up here complaining. We gonna get it right. Like, you don't get no strikes for that. You don't get no strikes for that at all. Like, sitting up here having Saint Stockholm syndrome and going at people that's questioning these bad decisions don't make you no more of a Saints fan than anybody else in the room. These people are capable to show that they have the why not me attitude. They showed that the first 2 weeks, it's to build off this L and look for small victories for momentum. Where are the small victories today is my question. Where's the small victories today? Like, I'm serious. Go back and watch that football game. What was the one, like, outside of maybe Quincy Riley's 4th fumble? Like, what did the Saints do well in that game? Like, I mean, that game is pretty much self-explanatory. Like, they were not prepared for that football game. I said yesterday on the post game, I said it was almost like Kellen Moore talked to the team last week after the 49ers game, said, tough loss, fellas. We'll get them next week. We got to play Seattle. I'll see y'all next week. Catch me at the airport, at 9 o'clock on Thursday or something. That's kind of what it was. Like, did you practice? Like that was kind of the game. It's like the game plan was awful. The special teams, awful. Defense, in the first half, awful. Offense, terrible. Like it just was. Like in the second half, yeah, it was a much better showing, but I mean, you can make an argument to say that Seattle was like, man, we got a game on Thursday. Let's not try to go out here and get guys hurt. Beat up on them real quick. Let's go ahead and pull our starters. That way we don't have to worry about guys being injured and anything like that and get ready for this game versus the Cardinals. So, I mean, who knows? Maybe if they didn't have a game on Thursday, it probably would have really got out of hand. Trust me, the money stopped Gale would fire Loomis. you know what, so fast. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of the same situation that the New Orleans Saints fans did with Dennis Allen. They didn't want to fire Dennis Allen, and they would not have fired Dennis Allen if the Saints fans didn't come in and stand on business and say, man, we're not taking this no more. Like, get this guy up out of here. And it's going to take that same type of energy in order for them to move Mickey Loomis upstairs. Notice I said move upstairs and not fire, because he's not going anywhere, folks. He's not going anywhere. So he's still going to be there in charge of decisions, making decisions for the football team in some capacity. And that's the scary part. I was there in person yesterday. You can see the team wasn't into it. Everyone on the sidelines didn't show emotion to jump back in it after the punt return. I think they just kind of realized that it's going to be a tough day at the office. And look, these guys know what they have on the football team. Like I don't take what most athletes say at times at face value, because most of these guys are trying to say the right thing so they won't get fined, so they won't get suspended, so it won't affect the game availability. Like, that's what they do. So, man, yeah, I'm gonna give you the fluff version of how I feel about a situation. Like, you might every now and then get a guy who's fed up, and he'll probably tell the media how he really feels about a situation. But even with that, they're not going to just sit up there and tell you. Like, they're not going to have these type of conversations for like how they probably have outside by the car before they, drive off and go home. Y'all know how it is, man. You get off work and you're standing outside in the parking lot, probably chop it up with one of your friends and stuff, and you really talk about what happened at work. Man, such and such didn't do nothing today, man. That's you. I was doing all the work. Yeah, I know, man. They talking about promoting that dude, man. For real? Man, they need to promote me because I'm up there doing this job. Like, y'all know how it go, man. Like, you ain't about to get the type of conversations like in front of the camera. That's why I find it hilarious when people be like, well, such and such said that he didn't want to leave here. Such and such said that he want to be the quarterback. Such and such said that he believes in such and such, so I believe in him. Like, come on, man. Y'all, you can't be that naive to take things at face value. Like, some things you probably can't take at face value, but we know it's going to be a lot of PC things going on, and I don't mean personal computers. So that's the reason why, I don't take a lot of things, some things that are said at face value, especially what you're talking about don't add up to what I've actually seen. And am I like off course at times about certain situations? Absolutely. I mean, aren't we all? But at the end of the day, I told y'all back, I told y'all back in 2023 that Chris Olave was not a number one receiver. I mean, I'm glad that y'all finally joined the party. But when I first said that, everybody like, man, you don't know what you talking about, TJ. Man, you don't know what you're saying, man. Man, I'm telling you, Chris Olave, man, y'all tripping, man. You tripping, man. I don't know what you're talking about. But I noticed, man. You notice something? When I say something that can be considered controversial, all these people try to jump on me. They'll say things like, I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm a fake journalist. I want to be this. I want to be that. But when I get proven right, nobody ever shows up and tell me, hey, TJ, I found out that you was right about this situation. Nobody says that. So that's the reason why, for the most part, I do not care about what most people say when I give my opinion about certain things. There are certain times where I'm not going to be right about a situation. But I notice when I am right about things, it is dead quiet in the land of the Who Dat Nation. I know some people will be trying to discredit your boy, but I know what I'm talking about from time to time. But at the end of the day, the Saints are going to have to figure this offensive situation out, and they're going to have to find themselves a true number one receiver. Not going to happen this year, but they're going to have to find one. And if you're talking about even thinking about paying Chris Olave, then I feel like that would be definitely be grounds for Mickey Loomis to get let go, because this dude is not a number one receiver. And if you're going to pay him, you better not pay him like a number one receiver. I mean, I don't think he was ever supposed to be the outright number one, do-it-all wide receiver. He needs a physical primer wide receiver, Mike T, to be his best self. No, he was supposed to be the number one receiver. And I'm going to tell you why, Juice. When he was drafted in the first round back in 2022, you can see the New Orleans Saints, their offense the way it was structured, most of the targets went towards Chris Olave's way. Because that was the reason why Michael Thomas was kind of upset. He was like, man, I'm open, but he ain't looking for me. He was talking about, I want to say he was talking about Derek Carr at one time, right? It was like that rookie year. It was like when Jameis was the quarterback, he was kind of distributing the ball a little bit, and, he was trying to, get the ball to everybody. Jarvis Landry, Michael Thomas, Chris Olave. And then all of a sudden, like, he transitioned the next year to being that number one guy. You didn't see Michael Thomas really being a foe. Michael Thomas might get 2, maybe 3 targets. He might catch 2 or 3 of them. He was kind of that guy. So they wanted him to be that number one, but he's just not a number one. A number one, I keep telling y'all, number one is the type of wide receiver that everybody in the building knows who's going to get the football, and it does not matter. It doesn't matter. Last night, we seen the New York Giants play against the Chiefs. They tried to force feed Malik Neighbors several times in that football game. Why? Because he's a number one receiver. That's the guy that you're relying on. That's the guy that you're counting on because you think that he's going to make more plays than not. And he has. Like we seen that big time catch that he made in the fourth quarter against the Dallas Cowboys a couple of weeks ago because he's a number one receiver. Chris Olave, he goes missing at times. Doesn't get yards after the catch. Never really truly had a dominant performance that we can just remember. Like he'll have a catch that you can remember, like that one-hand grab that he had against Carolina, the catch that he caught over the head of the cornerback against Atlanta. He's had some games where he had these circus-like catches, but where's the game where you just said Chris Olave is taking over? I haven't seen it. Like maybe you can probably go back to the game, against the Carolina Panthers when Jameis was the quarterback, or, the game where I want to say the first time he played Seattle and he ended up getting knocked out of that game with a concussion. He played pretty well there, but I just don't see that number one receiver because I don't think that he is one. Like it's a mind frame. It's an energy that you have to roll with. It's a dog mentality. Like name a number one, like not too many number one receivers don't have that in them. So, TJ, do you think Vele can be the number one? He's tall, physical, and low-key fast. No, no, I don't. I think that when we're talking about a situation like that, I think that it's like putting a square peg into a round hole. And by that, I mean, we're trying to make him fit the role. No, he's not. If he's not a number one receiver. He's a complimentary guy. I think like if you have a team, like he can be if we talking about like look at Arizona. And, they have their number one receiver, which is Marvin Harrison Jr. And then they have the other guy on the other side who is Mike Wilson. No, there's nothing wrong with Mike Wilson. Mike Wilson is a solid wide receiver. Caught a touchdown yesterday. Really talented dude, but, he's not a number one receiver. So, he can probably be your Mike Wilson or your Tim Patrick or one of these other complimentary big body receivers, but I don't think that he's a number one. But I think that he can be a good compliment to you in the wide receiver room. I just don't look at him as a number one. I don't want the New Orleans Saints to keep on going down this road where you're basically just trying to find a number one on the team. Like I don't think you have one. Looking across the board, there is no number one receiver on this football team. You got a bunch of down the field guys who are speedy guys. And once again, if you take the best quality of those players, which is running straight down the field on some type of streak route or, trying to take the top off the defense, you take that away from them, you make the New Orleans Saints passing game one-dimensional. That's why you're seeing a bunch of dinking and dunking. Spencer Rattler had 39 attempts for 218 yards on Sunday. Like, that's not good. What, he had a 5.7 average? Chris Olave had 10 catches at a 5.7 average. Like, that's equivalent to a running back just running the ball 5 yards. Like, what you can do, all right? But we're going to go ahead and stop there. But I want to say thank you all for checking out the State of the Saints podcast. I really do appreciate it. Much love to you. Tonight, Monday Night Football, big-time matchup, Detroit Lions taking on the Baltimore Ravens. We'll be over on the State of the NFL podcast, giving that play-by-play. We have a good time over there, man. We talk football. We answer your questions kind of similar to this format. But the only difference is we have other NFL teams that come along for the journey as well. So if you're into NFL football, you're probably going to be watching that Monday Night Football matchup. And Lord knows, after the Sunday's performance by the Saints, we need to see some good football by some really good football teams to get that off our minds of what we saw on Sunday. So come on over to the State of NFL podcast, and I'm pretty sure you'll enjoy everything that's going on there. And also, you can follow me on X at TJAYJones8, the NFC South Roundtable every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. So make sure that you check it out. Should be interesting, man. A couple teams in the NFC South won yesterday. Two teams got blew out. So we got a lot of things that we need to discuss. So come on over to the NFC South Roundtable. And, of course, subscribe to the State of the Saints podcast channel if you have not already. Till next time, all I got to say is, who dat?
Thank you for listening to my daddy's podcast. Please subscribe to our channel.
All I got to say is, who dat?